got done watching Pixar's brand new movie, Elemental, and this is about a city where fire, water, land, and air residents live together. A fiery young woman and a go-with-the-flow guy discover something elemental, and honestly, how much can they actually have in common now with this? Now, that synopsis is very much just the basic overall premise. The way that I can explain it a little bit better is a fire girl and a water guy meet each other, and they're not supposed to be, but they start to fall in love with one another. This is Pixar's first romantic comedy. The trailers looked stunning in the animation, but overall kind of lacked a little bit of flavor in my taste. And then the premiere at Cannes Film Festival didn't make this film all look too good. The reactions were a little bit mixed to meh. And I have to say, Elemental, I don't know what those critics were smoking over there. This movie purely reminded me why Pixar is one of the best in the game, and personally still my favorite film studio of all time. Now, there is a little bit of a biasness to it. They did make my favorite movie of all time, Toy Story, but I always come away from their movies just spellbinded. And Elemental, it's not a perfect movie. I can truly say that. There is a couple issues I have with the film, but I walked away and I got heavily emotional on this. And, you know, when it comes down to romantic comedies, if you make a romantic comedy right, you can really stir those heartstrings and emotions. So I'm very excited to talk about Elemental today. And I definitely want to get your guys' thoughts on this movie. So make sure to leave your thoughts down below, as well as hit that like and subscribe button. We're on our goal to hit 50,000 subs this year. I think we can do it. We're almost to 40,000. So let's keep chugging along. And thank you so much again for clicking on this video. With every movie review, the first thing I like to start off with talking about is my pros. And let's start off with talking about why I think this film works overall. First off, it is Pixar's first romantic comedy. That's what they're deeming it as. Some people could argue that Toy Story 4 technically was theirs, but this is through and throughout their romantic comedy. It has the cliches, it has the cringe moments that you see in almost every single romantic comedy, and usually that will be different for everyone. For me, I don't think this is a mixed or a con, because if you make romantic comedy and actually use those cliches to your advantage, then you make the film special. And Elemental already hits that all. It has all the romantic comedy flair that you would expect it to have, whether that's the actual emotion to it or even the jokes. Every single thing lands in here and consistently puts a smile on your face. And there was one point in time where the song starts playing and you kind of get this montage that you get in every romantic comedy. And right then and there I went, yep, this is it. This is why I love this movie. And this is the reason that this movie is starting to make me fall in love with these two characters. Because Ember and Wade are two of the most irresistibly likable characters. And there are a lot of reasons to not like either of them. Wade, at first, when you first meet him, is kind of annoying, and Ember is kind of a jerk. But as you continue to learn a little bit more about them, you get to see where they're both coming from, as well as where they come from, which is one of the strongest parts about this film, and I was not expecting this. I was expecting this film to tackle a little bit of racism and interracial relationships, and I thought all of that was tackled in such an excellent way that, again, isn't hand-holding to its audience, but also isn't shoving it down your throat. It is right then and there and feels realistic to what is still going on in our world today and our society, but this film's thematical avenue on generational legacy and an immigrant story when parents come to a new country to start something new and they want their kids to follow in their footsteps. Whether it's starting a store, starting a restaurant, starting something that they want their kids to grow into. And you see a lot of what Ember's parents are actually going through and how that leads into a lot of her frustration. And again, those are hard-hitting themes I was not expecting, and they hit hard, and it works. And for me, there are three major plot lines throughout this movie. There's the romantic comedy aspect between Ember and Wade. There's the father and daughter relationship in here. Then there's this other thing that kind of like tries to bring everything together and is like that MacGuffin of the film. We'll talk about that when we get to my cons. The other two parts of it completely work, and the thematics in this film are some of the strongest in a Pixar film in quite a while. And also, to get the most obvious thing out of the way, the animation here is absolutely spectacular. Pixar just knows how to animate their movies. They have this style to it, and what I really like about it is when you actually look at the style and how they actually created, say, the fire, the water, the air, the earth, all of these different elements all work. And I didn't say elements, no pun intended. I really didn't mean to say that. It is really culturally but it is really unique, and I think they kind of did something with Inside Out in the same vein, and like Soul, and a lot of people were kind of saying, oh, this kind of feels like the successor to those. No, this is actually way different than any of those films, and I really like how Pixar took this small-scale approach to the movie. I was just really taken back by the entire world that Pixar created here, and it was something that I actually kind of wanted to live in. I know they're working on an animated series right now for Disney+, but part of me actually kind of wished that Elemental was this animated series that they were going to be doing. Just like Zootopia, which Zootopia had such a fascinating world, and we're finally getting a sequel to that after way too long. That was a movie that the second it came out and when Disney Plus was announced, I was like, that's a world that I would love to go back and explore in. And then they came out with dumb shorts that didn't really work. Elemental's kind of that same route. There are so many intriguing possibilities in this entire world surrounded by these characters and what they were able to delve into. And I just want to see more of this journey with these characters after the credits had rolled. Not to say that I wasn't satisfied by the ending, because I was taken back and satisfied, because this is a cliche romantic comedy, and that worked in my eyes. The voice performances from Lewis and Athy are absolutely great. Again, their chemistry, you can tell, comes through within the characters, but while you have that animation, it also comes down to the voice performances, and if you don't feel that emotion between that, it can really fall apart. Overall, can't express enough how much I really love the overall relationship in here, and all the fun jokes in here, and what they can play around with the elemental stuff in there. Specifically, you know, the trailers hint at this, how they can't touch. How do you fall in love with someone that you can't touch? And, you know, this is very much a big allegory for interracial relationships. If we look at me and my fiance, it's the same thing. She's Latina. I am, well, white. We both grew up in completely different households, and there was a lot of stuff in here that I saw from both different point of views. And this film even got down like one of the most insane and cultural moments that I think a lot of interracial couples go through. And that is when someone meets the parents. How does that work through? When Wade meets Ember's parents, there was some instances in there where I could relate to that. And the same thing with Ember met Wade's parents. I sat there and I was like, this seems very familiar when my fiance met my parents and my family. And some of it is very awkward in that. And I love how this film actually decided to tackle that. And I could go on and on. I don't want to get too deep into this movie, but I really think that this is a special movie. And again, reminds me why we love Pixar. Before we get to my final thoughts, let's talk about my issues with the movie. And primarily, I only have one issue, and that really just comes down to the ebb and flow of the entire story. I think the third act gets a little bit clunky in its execution, as well as just rushed. There are three major plot lines in here. One about this relationship, one about the generational legacy between a daughter and a father, and in the middle of it, the MacGuffin that made Wade and Ember meet each other and how that can actually reflect and affect both things. And I think for me, when they were writing this movie, it felt like they had two great ideas. And at the start of this movie, you see a beautiful, touching part that is also very heartbreaking at the same time of two people coming to a brand new place and immigrating here. I've never seen that in an animated movie. It's great. But in the same point and frame of that, where that leads into one plot line, leads into this plot line, which flows fine there, and I like how Wade and Ember met, but it's that middle one and that through line for, again, the whole middle plot line is how they met, but it's the MacGuffin that's supposed to bring everyone together. It's the MacGuffin that's supposed to end everything. Something about it just didn't jive with me. And it's not that it's bad, it's not that it's even cliche, I just kind of sat there going, every time we go back to this plot line, I don't really care about it. I think it kind of leads to a little bit of a messy third act, because honestly, there really isn't a villain for this story. And I guess you could say that maybe the main characters are their own villains, their own villain personas of themselves and the world itself and how they treat them, but I kind of wish there was something a little bit different in how they brought everyone together. I personally just wish that, or just in general how they structured the characters to come out of certain terms and what they were actually feeling. That's just my opinion. You may disagree with me on that, but in general, that's really my only issue of the movie, and I think Elemental is actually a special kind of animated movie that again reminds us why Pixar is the best in the business. A love story that fills your heart with emotions and your body with joy. It's hilarious too. The film speaks volumes on so many themes and knocks them out of the park, but I will say, like I said, the story has three major plot lines, and one is a bit hit or miss for me, which was that middle segment, but everything else really works, and you truly come to love Wade and Ember. The voice performances are great. The animation is stellar. I walked away from this movie very, very happy, and I can't wait to see this. I texted my fiance who couldn't attend. I was like, we have to go see this thing in theaters. As well as there is a Pixar short in front of this, which is Carl's Date. I have to mention that one is... it's emotional. If you love Up and you love Carl, it's beautiful. But overall, I thought this movie was beautiful as well. And with that said, I'm going to give this film an A-. Just so you remember, I am a little bit biased on Pixar, so this rating might skew for certain people. I personally, it knocked it out of the park for me. For you, it may not. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below. I really hope you guys do go support this movie. I know it releases the same day as The Flash. I've seen both. They're both excellent. I think I gave them both the same exact grade. I recommend both, so definitely make some time for both of them. And of course, I can't believe how many times I've said that word. Thank you so much again for watching this, and of course, until next time, stay classy.